Hi, all. Another review. Episode 6 The Gift Among the Green. First question: is this episode a gift? It is a gift in that the player characters, or the players themselves, actually kind of call out this campaign for what it is. Let's sort of get into this one. If we break it down, it'll be a case of leaving the jungle, wartime fun, entering a found city, home cooked meal, um, important politician, a chase scene, player punished yet again, and let's go, a character leaves who was never needed. Kind of break this down. We're going to start this episode out with Dorian saying the first thing that kind of points to how this series has been going. It's him and Farah are having a conversation before, while they're moving along. And one of the things he says is, she goes, how are you doing, little brother, and all that kind of stuff. He goes, the wind pushing us forward, first time we had any direction on this journey. That's the player character, because that is literally what's been going on. We haven't really had a direction for this campaign. It felt like we were going somewhere, and we've always been derailed or just hadn't come together cohesively. And to the player, it's finally going somewhere, or so we hope. Well, we're going to continue this sort of walking journey, and during this time, Opal does bring up the fact that, hey, talking to Ted, there was someone in purple. Does anybody know who that is? Everybody's sort of scratching their heads. They get to make a roll, history check. They realize, oh, it's the elves of Singorn. Why are the Singorn elves following them? Or more precisely, through the gift, Farah understands that they're actually following Opal. Now, we learn a bit more later on why Opal is kind of sort of important, but not 100%. But we realize that they're following them, which brings me to another point later on where I thought even be in this area, you had to have the blessing of the Wild Mother to be traversing this. So we're kind of ignoring that for right now. The other thing that's a bit weird, because like I just said about the Wild Mother, Farah keeps having to make survival checks to find out, am I going in the right direction? Well, you're leading the party to a place that they've already been. With the blessing of a goddess, you already have. Why are you making checks? But these Singorn elves are just been able to keep step with you, nothing blocking their path. I don't care. Well, I'm using a scry spell. You do all the colorful stuff you want with your spell, but you still got to make your way through that area. And if the Wild Mother is blocking the path, they shouldn't be able to keep just doing whatever they're doing, especially in her domain. So we find out why she's following Open later. So we keep traveling, and we do get to an enjoyable waterfall scene. Provides some much needed comic relief early on, and we've now made our way to, I want to say this right, Nirdalpak. This lost ancient city that's bustling, hustling, whatnot. We gain entry into the city. We make our first stop at Elam's house, who is a Earth Genasi, I believe. And it's here that we do a couple things. We have a scene with the dog, Gugal. We have the first definition and or explanation of what the rune that they made a copy of is. We also get a few secrets. Only 2 are worthwhile, but they're not really that major. And we learned that one of the reasons we came here has changed. First, there's a cute little scene with the dog Gugal. Some people probably get a kick out of that. But the meat in this part is that the rune, and that Elam tells us that the rune says place of burning. Well, it was found in as I believe Opal points out later. Well, no duh. It came from a very hot place that was burning. But the interesting tidbit here is that we know for sure 100% that Fiterai has been in this city for extended periods of time. This is a regular stomping ground for her. Why didn't she just tell us what the rune said? Like, it's if you've been in a place that much to where you're ingrained with, you have a best friend there, and you're known by the top bureaucrats, the leading people of this area, you've probably picked up on the language. And of course, remember, this is some timey-wimey weirdness. So why not just tell the party, hey, it means blah. We don't do that for whatever reason. So they go ahead and do that, and then we go to, well, the Elam brings up, what is your real name to Dorian, and it causes a bit of a thing, and he's like, I'll tell you my first name if you'll tell some secrets. We found out his first name is actually Bronte. And they kind of do like a round table of everybody's secrets. Most of them are pretty boring. We also learned that Opal's name is not Opal. It's Georgina, Ted, Theodora. Fear Eyes is kind of bland. There's really nothing with Dariax's. Orm's not that great, so we get two new we get some more names, kind of thing. We also learn in this area that Ferai was bringing them to a person by the name of Omeji. And this person is now gone. They've been gone for over a month or something like that. So the gift told you to find these people, to bring them to this city, to bring them to this person, and now this person is gone. The gift told you to protect these people, to bring them here, to bring them to here, and this person's gone. Well, maybe there's something else going on. But so far, they haven't really needed your help for the most part in protection. But we'll get to the other end of that. So, and the Omeji is apparently somewhere with the Iron Authority. We leave Elam's house, and we are treated to a scene outside where we're overlooking the statue of the Observer. Federai tries to connect, doesn't happen. However, Dariax, he gets to, he becomes the one who's able to interact with the Observer, makes the roll, decides he does want to fail the roll. We cut the break, we come back from break, we do a roll again. I'm not really sure why, but we do another roll. And you can tell this is where Abria was probably wanting to have some sort of really keen interaction. However, it was never going to happen with the way that character is being played right now. It wasn't going to work out. It sucks because I think that was supposed to be something kind of important, but it played out the way it played out. We continue on, and then we arrive at the Tesseract, Throskrull. And this is where a lot of talking begins. There's a lot of talking. There's a lot going on, so I'm probably going to miss something. But the nuts and bolts of it is we get another explanation of the room, and that it's basically a place where lots of energy is building up and has great potential. This is why Fern was able to reach into it and pull out Mister. And according to the way She's explaining the way magic works. Any single person in that party, anybody in the world could have reached into that, and they believed in something long enough or focused in something hard enough, they too could have created something from nothing. We also get another explanation that, along with being a place where you can just create something, that something could be trying to decide what it is on its own. So that's another one of the multiple examples that we get about this. Now, this is where I'm talking about the earlier part of it's a gift in that the players, again, are calling out this for what it is. The first one I've already given you with Dorian. Opal has a lot going on. She has a lot going on in this section. But the biggest thing with Opal is she goes, as Throskul is explaining how magic work and all this potential, there's no good, there's no evil, blah, blah, blah. She goes, I call bullshit. I'm not going to, you can figure out what I said. I call bullshit, is what she says. And I'm like, yes. That is basically what this campaign has been. We've got a long-winded explanation from yet another person explaining to the party all this stuff, and it's not making any sense. They were sent here for a reason. It's not a real reason, but you're telling them that the magic is this. Well, my question becomes, in this fiery area, with the fire shark, and I understand, we already know she dumbed them down. They still couldn't figure out that it was a place of power. I feel like that's sort of bred into them. You know what I mean? Like, they should have been able to feel through their own magical prowess that it was something of potential. The room, whatever, they could still feel that. The rune is basically nothing. It's just an overflowing well. Why did the fire Shari not understand that? That's one of the things that comes about with Opal. The other thing is there's a scene where she grabs a mirror and she looks at herself. Oh, she looks bad. Well, she passes back to Throskul, and she gets a glimpse into something, and it turns out, it was an image of her mother, and he explains, you're just like your mother, you're super powerful, you're some sort of rare being, basically, is what they're trying to make her out to be now. You're a whole but of a half, and all this kind of stuff. It's a lot. Then we come back to Dorian going, basically, we got sent here, and you're just going to send us back there. Now, we know there's something else going on with one of your higher-ups. Why don't we help with that? Because this problem that the GM has created isn't a problem. Like, anybody should have been able to figure it out. Opal is like, duh, it's about fire. Okay, it's power, so what? Anybody can use it, so what? This is not a problem. Dorian is pointing it out. So now it's looking like we've got yet another path we can take to go on another side mission. As a GM, it is important when you're writing your story. Yes, players will change things, but when you're writing your story, you don't keep adding in extra avenues for your players to go off into. You just don't do it. Because right now, we have so many different avenues, and you've just told us that the main focus of what you're trying to make is actually no big deal. It's like, I thought the crown was the biggest threat. But then I thought the ash hole was the biggest threat. Well, the crown, based on the way Throskul is talking, well, it shouldn't actually have an alignment because there's no good or evil. There's no good or bad. I mean, like, so what's the difference? You've just given us another avenue. I digress. And while explaining things, again, no, it's just Opal is just giving us the information. Um, she tells him, if there's something else going on, just spell it out to us. Like, don't keep all this riddle crap. Just what's going on? What you want us to do? I get he's trying to act in the observer role, but at the same time, it's like if there's something going on, just tell us. Because at this point, the players themselves really need a focus, because this episode is it's turning into another episode of what's the point? This is an 8-episode series. You haven't defined a clear path. You just gave us another path. What do you want us to do? And she even calls the whole Gilmore thing redundant. But we're getting closer to almost time to leave this guy, and Vera, speaks up, and she asks her, you as the player, what are you kind of looking for? She goes, oh, it's about my family. So, of course, she gives it to her. Oh, your sister's still alive. Well, that's obviously going to be the reason for her exiting the party. We don't know if she's going to exit today, tomorrow, next week, whatever. But it's obviously set up to be the exit of this character that came in and has served no purpose other than, hey guys, come to the jungle and let's go into this ancient city. That's going to give you zero information. But I'm going to be leaving, deal with my sister. Well, we didn't need you. Like, we could have walked off on some other path. The other thing, Orm gets a seed, which I guess that's supposed to be the gift in the green, per the title. But the seed doesn't come into play. He's just giving it, and things kind of keep going. So they head out, and then Fury goes, oh, that's right. Runs back in, basically snitches on Dorian, which is our other confirmation, if you still haven't put together, that she is basically like a Doctor Who time traveler, because I did something in the past and it didn't work out, so I wound up back here. Okay, I said it last episode, don't play with time, because not everybody can write a good time story. Do it by all means, but this is just a problem at this stage. So we finally leave. The all-seeing, all-knowing Thraskell doesn't bother to warn the party. Again, he's an observer. Hey, there's an ambush waiting for you outside. Wait a minute. So you offered Opal scrying protection, but you couldn't tell them, hey, you're going to get jumped outside. So this is how the jump works. They go outside, and she feels something in her neck. When the other players notice it, an invisible figure rushes by, pushes Fern out of the way, grabs Opal, starts taking off, and this is where we begin our chase attack scene. This is an important lesson for people. And if you're going to say we're doing this mechanic, you've got to stick to it. You can't say, well, this is the mechanic, but rules for cool. But this is the mechanic. We're doing this because when you choose a mechanic that disenfranchises your players, takes away their action economy, and then go, well, this other player can do rule of cool, that's BS. You need to sit down. Don't DM at that point. Because if you're going to say these are the mechanics for what we're doing, then you need to stick to them. Because if another player wants to do an extra action and you say no because these are the mechanics, but another player does extra actions, that's on you. That's on you. And that's bad GMing. I'm going to call that out every time. Now, I know the argument will be, well, these players were doing the chase mechanic, but this player started out in this other mechanic. No. She clearly said this entire sequence was the chase mechanic. In fact, she makes a point later on in the fight to say, now we're doing regular initiative, and now we're doing back to chase initiative. So that's not an excuse. Rule of cool is fine, but rule of fairness trumps rule of cool. If you're gonna punish one player, you punish them all. Like that's BS. That's total BS. So breaking that. The dart puts her to sleep, puts Opal to sleep. The figure's running off with her. Players start making attacks at the invisible creature at disadvantage. And interestingly, we now consider a player like an item. The caster takes the ring off, they put the ring back on, cast greater invisibility. Now the player is an object. In fact, the DM says as much because they're unconscious. You put them to sleep. Well, when the player gets their turn, you're like, oh, well, you're unconscious, but I'm going to give you a chance to wake up. Well, they're not an item at that point anymore. The player actually casts a spell which doesn't break anything, which at the same time is sort of like great invisibility as an item, doesn't require concentration. But something happens later that kind of trumps that. We've got to figure out, she's got to figure out, which game she's playing. If this is an improv game, then let's call it an improv game. I believe I said this last episode, but let's stop calling this Dungeons and Dragons because it's not people being rules lawyers. There's no cohesion. So eventually, Opal does get free. She manages to use a Misty Step to the back of Fern, who is at this point transformed into a direwolf. And the moment she lands on the back of the direwolf, she's no longer invisible. But I thought if the spell was cast on her because she was considered an item because she was carrying her, even if that item falls, shouldn't that item still be invisible because the spell is just lasting? I guess we're going to say that she knew enough, which I doubt, to release the spell on her own. Whatever. We do also get a rather good scene with Dariax disguising himself as Opal, which does cause a few confusions. Now, not to just crap on it. One of the things she does do good in this sequence is her complications, in that when a complication would have affected the player behind them, but that player was in a different area, she either didn't let it happen, or she made sure that if it was affecting her bad guys, it affected her bad guys. I will give her 100% props on keeping the complications to a level that they made sense. But the rest of that combat sequence was off, because you can't claim one rule set, ignore that rule set, and put this player in that rule set, and then just kind of jump back and forth. But the guy we're chasing, we eventually kill. Fern kills in her direwolf form. Opal hops off. Hysterical mess, which I was glad she gave her the ring, because I was going to be mad if she hadn't on a personal level. She now has a ring of great invisibility. We go back to where the fight where the constructs is happening. That fight finishes because once we killed the invisible guy, we went back into regular initiative, ran over here, finished killing the construct, and then we went back into chase initiative or chase rules. You can't keep hopping back and forth. It causes too many issues down the line. All right, so during our chase, we were never meant to catch whoever this Singorn, if it was a Singorn elf, because that'll probably be the next complication. It'll probably be Posca just dressed in purple, and not the Singorn elves that we said were looking for us. But anyway, they eventually get away. They manage to do a dimension door. They get away, and narratively we go, oh, Opal, your Ted is so exhausted that now you're out of magic again. Why are we continuing to just kind of pick on Opal in this manner? Like, why? I don't know. It seems a bit out of place. Maybe she's got some great tongue tied, great grand plan down the road. But as an episode as a whole, I'm now having to go. Is our new quest line about Opal? Is our new quest line Omijai with the iron lights? Is it the room that's a there's a fly right there. That's not a problem. That's a problem. What is our quest line? Because the players have already, a player has already called BS outright to your face. Another player has also pointed out the inconsistencies of what's going on. We've got to get something concrete, because the next episode we need to know what's going on, because Fury has now gone off. We end this episode with going, I'm not going to do it. You go ahead and just let them know what's happening. Well, Fury leaves. I'm going to go find my sister, whatever. I don't care. You literally brought nothing to the table. You showed up during episode 3, 4, whichever. 4, episode 4. You said you're here to protect us. You didn't do any real protection. You were meant to lead us to some great purpose. And the great purpose was the thing I sent you all on episodes ago, that the second episode we started out about, is actually no problem. It's just raw potential. It's power. So if you just want to go back there and suck it all up for yourself, you could. There is no storyline. There's no clear, defined path. At this point, I need Gilmore to be the bad guy. I need Gilmore to have sent them on this fool quest while he was sitting there at the ash hole sucking up all the power. Because that's the only way that this saves this campaign, is that we take Gilmore and make him the bad guy. Because the Spider Queen, by Throskul speaking, there's no real good or evil and all this kind of crap in your world. So she's not a real problem. Like, that's not the problem. The asshole is not the problem. But the Singorn Elves might be the problem. But maybe it's the Iron Alliance that's the problem now. So what path do you want us to take? Get into a few of these comments. And there are a lot. There were some really good ones. Just around, I got that one when they first said they were putting it out, and I bought it. Like I said, I probably spend more money than I should. Diddy Cat. I try to have these reviews up early Monday morning. Only try to give people time to watch the episodes, but I can always do them earlier. Timothy Burbage. Yes, why put the spot? I wouldn't bring somebody in, giving them metagame information and making them someone who has to explain that to the players as a sort of beacon, because that does just show just how weak my campaign is, because that person now can just make stuff up, which, I mean, D&D is all about making stuff up, but that's not their job. That's not their responsibility to be put in that position. Jude Defensor, yes, it definitely seems like a bit of a messy puzzle when you look back. And the characters have definitely shown some level of growth, especially when you look at Dorian. Dorian's done a really good job of character growth. Opal as well. White chocolate tricks. No, I'm not a fan of people seeing alignment. In fact, I'm pretty sure she's not because I watched that Black AF podcast, and I think it was the D&D live one where I think they talked about how they thought it was outdated. Um, Alignment's one of those things where I think you should have to do something. I think you might have said um, you have to do something for your alignment to change or to uh, make it have like a super crazy meaning. Fear, I don't like her having this gift ability at all. Cat Cat Cocox. Uh, I'm glad you enjoyed Deadwood. Like I said, it just for me personally, it did seem like I was just watching a lot of old school Geek and Sundry. I'm just not a big fan of post production after live table. Uh, Graffin, I'm gonna say that last part wrong again. Graffin Chul. One, thanks for the pronunciation, guy, because I'm horrible with names. Um, yeah, I think Matt would have done a better job being behind the scenes. I don't think he should have ever jumped to the role of a character unless he was doing one of the NPCs like Gilmore. And even then, I think this campaign would have been a lot better had there been no mention of Gilmore, any of the major characters from campaign one, campaign one should not have been in this, and I think this would have set a better precedence for the show. They definitely need to work on their group dynamics ahead of time. This was too big, too fast, and the pacing should have definitely worked out. Which is crazy because if I knew I had 8 episodes, one, I'm not giving my players a whole bunch of avenues so that I can control the pacing. The worst thing you could do is if you got X amount of episodes or X amount of time is to give people a bunch of options. You give them an option that you can control the pace. Sort of like when that cloaked figure dimension doored away, she was like, I'm not ready for y'all to fight her yet. That's what you should have been doing this whole campaign. You should have just kept it on a single focused event, making it have a very impactful meaning. Dr. Limpkin. Maybe I'll do a season campaign 3 review series. I'll actually have to put up a proper background at that point, I guess. I can be a bit hard. I'm not really I am taking these episodes easy. My normal review of Critical Role is generally a bit harder, only because, for better or for worse, they're going to determine what happens to the hobby that I thoroughly love and enjoy. And as of right now, I think they're playing to one side only. They used to have a really great message of love one another, but I've noticed that I don't know where they're going to take things, and I don't know, we'll see. I might do it. I will say maybe they could add like a dice can would be great for some of that stuff going forward. Gilmore. Yeah, Gilmore could have really helped him out a whole lot. Like I said, Gilmore at this point needs to be the big bad. He needs to be that shock value for the series, because he could have definitely got them at least closer to where they were. Yes, the Wild Mother has to show you how to get to the city, yada yada yada. Granted, the Singhorn Elves apparently don't have to worry about that, but he could definitely either teleported them somewhere closer himself or had somebody else help them get there. We could have saved a lot of time. Chewbacca, how did you even get that? Managed to get that name. Kind of already hit on this one. I don't think the 8-episode constraint was an issue, because if you know you've only got 8, you know you're going to do these 4 hours. This one's 5. You can build a story, but you've got to make sure you're not building a bunch of extra junk into it that sideline things. Yes, have that relaxation episode. In an 8 campaign, you can probably get away with 2 just episodes that don't mean anything. Shopping episodes or just episodes that don't lend to the story. Just sort of a transition episode. So a lot of people are giving her that. I don't think that's an excuse for what we've been seeing. If anybody's comparing her to Mercer, then that's Critical Role's fault. Because nobody who is, if they didn't know about her, like I knew about her beforehand, but if they did know about her beforehand, that's Critical Role's fault. They built her up way too high. They never built her up. That was a mistake on their part. Bad skills. Yes, there's no reason for this party to be together except for they're all at the table. Oh yeah. For this particular series, yes, because of the way Liam builds his characters, it does earlier seem like he was a show stealer because he builds his characters to level 20. Like he knows from level 1 to level 20 where he's going. And unfortunately, because he is such a narrative heavy player, when you're playing with those other newbies and a new GM, an inexperienced GM, you can't come in that hard. You just can't come in that hard. Arch Little, you gonna get me in trouble. Jeff Bezos could not help this. No, like I said, at this point, we really need just a real big shock value to happen to get this back on point. Yeah, 100% right on Fear Eye. 6-month gaze. Oh, I'm glad you're watching these a bit to keep track. It's a lot to charge through. It's a lot. Kage Kaiju. Yeah, Twitter mob is definitely, which is why I'm kind of worried about Campaign 3. Is why Liam was not going to get the job. Which is a real sad state when, if they wanted to even bring in their own family members at this point, they get crucified. They would literally get crucified. And unfortunately, they are definitely listening to some of the more vocal people on Twitter. They've got some of them show up on a regular basis. They promoted some of their shows, which have been really. There's one I mentioned earlier in this review. I wouldn't have promoted it. There's some spicy stuff they got said. I'm butchering this. Rongan Rage. Sorry if I'm butchering that. Sam and Laura, they're more comic relief. They don't necessarily hog this show in that they don't intentionally cut out huge blocks of time in the episode to just kind of talk about themselves. Liam is a very dramatic person, so kind of like my earlier comment, he's got to learn to tone that back a little bit. Even playing Simone's friends, it can be a bit aggressive sometimes. That's what I mean by him and Taliesin do that same thing. Bad Skills replied. Bad Skills is kind of on the same line as what I'm saying. And then, yes, it is kind of sad that they are definitely teaching the newbie players that this is the way you play Dungeons and Dragons. There's no wrong way to play Dungeons and Dragons, but this is an example of if you went somewhere else, they would have to correct you. Because it's weird because they go, like I said, if you watch that podcast I'm talking about, they were real clear about how you need to open your circle and you need to go play with these different group of friends. You need to know the rules. Even chaos has a set of rules. Chaos is chaos because you don't understand it. You don't understand it is the set of rules. Yeah, it does kind of suck. I think there's not a whole lot I can do about that, but Opal has shown she is understanding some of the stuff that is going on and is calling out the BS in the campaign. Robbie, I don't know why I said Opal, but Opal's player character has pointed that out. Same thing with Robbie has also done that. Because, like I said, as you play the game, as you level up, these things start to make more sense. And you understand why rules are important. Rule of cool is fine, but it's not meant to be every single role, every single thing. Narratively, it's what rule of cool is made for, thematic purposes. But I don't know. Those are just some of my personal thoughts. It was a long episode. It provided a lot of information, but I hate to say this yet again. It's an 8-episode series, and this episode took us nowhere. This isn't a 100-episode campaign. This is an 8-episode campaign, and here we are again with what did it provide us? The player who joined us left. They didn't add anything to the story. The big reason we came here from episode 2 turns out to not really be that big a reason. I guess we're going to put the crown on the back burner for now. Opal is now a super person that the Singorn Elves want. Why? Maybe they've got Ted. I don't know. But if that was the case, why didn't they just take her when they had the chance in episode 4? Like, why wait? That makes no sense. And I don't know. I really don't know where this campaign is going, but yeah, we've got to have some big shock value. We've only got 2 episodes left, and I don't know what can be done about this campaign. The players have already called out that this makes no sense and is BS, the reasons they're being given told. Let me know your thoughts.